Hi, this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happen throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and world. Ainur Mangali is working in Silkway's studio. Let's start from official agenda. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev earlier this week held a telephone call with Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif. The counterparts discussed promising areas of bilateral relations. The conversation, initiated by Pakistan, also covered issues of cooperation between two countries within international organizations, including SCO. The summit of the organization will be held in Astana on July 3rd and 4th. The president instructed the Commissioner for Children's Rights in Kazakhstan to take comprehensive measures against child suicide and injuries. Dinara Zakiyeva presented a report on the annual work for the protection and safety of children. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev emphasized the importance of the recent legislative changes. According to Dinara Zakiyeva, active efforts are being made to implement these legislative norms in practice. She mentioned a unified contact center, an anti-bullying program in schools and safety lessons, which will commence in September. Furthermore, 6 autism centers and 11 regional rehabilitation centers have been opened.
Today, I presented the annual report on the work conducted and made systematic proposals to address pressing issues. We are working with the government on amendments to increase the number of child protection officers and to strengthen the service systematically. During today's meeting, proposals were discussed regarding the allocation of housing for orphans and children without parental care, as well as the development of infrastructure for children living in rural areas.
Now let's move on to some other news topics. According to Eurasian Development Bank forecasts, Central Asia is expected to face chronic and persisting water deficit by 2029. The reasons behind this situation are the population growth, urbanization and climate change. In this context, the construction of the Kambarata hydroelectric power plant is a key project that promises to address water shortages and enhance energy security in the region. However, alongside the optimistic expectations, some experts outline serious environmental and social issues that need careful consideration.
In Central Asia, where every cubic meter of water is precious, the governments of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan have joined forces to construct the Kambarata hydro power plant on the Narin River in Kyrgyzstan. This project promises significant changes in regional water management. The future HPP will have a capacity of 1860 megawatt and a reservoir volume of 5.4 billion cubic meters. Arman Akhunbayev, the expert at the Eurasian Development Bank, is sure that the new hydropower plant is an efficient solution in water management of the region.
The implementation of this project will have a positive impact on the ability to regulate water resource in Central Asia during both lower and high water years. The mode of operation of the HPP co-reservoirs will make it possible to meet the irrigation needs of the neighboring countries. It allows to accumulate water resource in winter for their controlled use in summer, as well as to regulate the frequency and for the unified energy system for Central Asia. This is of interest of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan.
Nevertheless, the Kambarata HPP-1 project brings both hopes and concerns. Environmentalists warn about the potential negative impacts on the region's ecosystems. The construction of large hydropower plants can potentially disrupt natural water cycles and degrade the environment. In fact, there are now very clear provisions in the world that large hydroelectric power plants should remain a thing of the past. These projects cause significant environmental disturbances and contribute to the degradation of water ecosystems. Natural processes are disrupted, leading to increased droughts, floods and other anomalies of natural phenomena. The restoration and support of natural water cycles are the most reliable ways to mitigate the effects of climate change. Amid the growing water deficit, the construction of Kambarata HPP-1 remains a contentious issue. On one hand, the project promises to solve many water supply and energy security problems. On the other hand, the potential environmental risks require careful analysis and consideration in implementing such initiatives. In recent years, hundreds of old hydropower plants and dams have been dismantled worldwide, including in the USA and Europe, despite them appearing beneficial in energy strategies. This is because they provide cheap energy. Therefore, decisions to build such hydropower plants are made by energy experts without considering the opinions of environmentalists.
The construction of a large joint hydropower plant such as Kambarata 1 will significantly reduce water scarcity in Central Asia in the long term. But the key problem remains the long time frame for its construction. Given that, as we have said, the region could enter a state of chronic scarcity as early as the next 5 years. That's why we consider that it will not be enough.
The construction of Kambarata hydropower plant is just one part of a comprehensive approach to addressing water security issues in Central Asia. Experts noted it is crucial to consider all aspects, social, environmental and economic, to ensure the sustainable development of the region. Daurian Sagulov, Raimbek Beguzhaev, Ayman Kaymuldina, Yerek Kirimkulov, New Time.
Meanwhile, China has become Kazakhstan's main trading partner. According to official statistics, the amount of trade between two countries for the first 3 months of the year has risen to 6.3% in comparison to the same period of 2023. More details on these and other news topics from Central Asia are in the review of my colleague, political observer Ozhet Shigirbayev. Ozhet, good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I'll be ready to share my top 3 Central Asia news in a moment. Uzbekistan will construct a nuclear power plant of Russian design at a site near Lake Tuscan in the Kazakh region. This site is located in close proximity to the border of Kazakhstan in 55 kilometers. Within a 250 kilometers radius, there is a population of more than 3 million of people in the Turkestan region and Shymkent city of Kazakhstan. According to Mr. Azim Ahmedkhadzaev, director of the Atomic Energy Agency of Uzbekistan, the demand for energy resources in Uzbekistan will almost double by 2050, and it's clear that for the stable operating of the energy system and development of the economy, Uzbekistan must ensure itself, in addition to renewable energy sources, a basic source of energy. In addition to the large nuclear power plant, the construction of small modular reactors with a total capacity of 330 megawatts is planned. Starting from 2023, China has become Kazakhstan's main trading partner, a position previously held by Russia. This trend continued in the first quarter of 2024. Trade between Kazakhstan and China from January to March 2024 amounted to $6.3 billion of USD, which is 6.3% higher than the same period of the last year. Kazakhstan's export to China for the first quarter of 2024 increased by 22.7% and amounted to $3.2 billion of USD. Imports during this period decreased by 6.6% and amounted to $3.1 billion of USD. In comparison, trade with Russia amounted to 5.6 billion of USD, of which export amounted to 1.8 billion. Overall, Kazakhstan's trade turnover from January to March 2024 amounted to 31.2 billion of USD, with export totaling 18.5 billion. Uzbekistan and the United Nations World Tourism Organization have discussed the continuation of joint efforts on the implementation of programs and projects to create comfortable corridors and conditions for tourists, development of pilgrimage, cultural and cognitive tourism, including domestic tourism. The issue was discussed at the meeting between President of Uzbekistan, Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, and United Nations WTO Secretary General Mr. Zurab Polodashvili in Samarkand city. The sides discussed further expansion of Uzbekistan's multifaceted cooperation with the EU and WTO at the meeting. During the meeting, the special attention was paid to the training of qualified personnel in the field of hospitality and the service, with the effective use of opportunities of International Academy of Tourism, which operates in Samarkand. In order to popularize the tourism destination in Uzbekistan, the parties agreed to expand practical cooperation in supporting the participation of Uzbek tour operators in major international tourism fairs and exhibitions. That's all from my part for today. Thank you. Giving the floor back to you.
Thank you very much. Political observer Ozhet Shigirbayev joined us in our studio with his weekly review of the most important news topics from Central Asia. Kazakhstan aims to attract $150 billion in investments by 2029. This ambitious goal is outlined in the new investment policy concept published by the Ministry of National Economy this week. According to the data from the National Bank, the gross inflow of foreign direct investment into Kazakhstan's economy from 2013 to 2023 amounted to nearly $247 billion. One recent notable contribution is made by the International Finance Corporation, which has been actively involved in financing projects across various sectors in the country. This has included significant investments in the aviation sector, particularly at the Almaty International Airport, said Michael Opagi, a principal investment officer at the IFC.
IFC was part of the financing package of $450 million that was invested in the new terminal at Almaty International Airport. And this was quite instrumental in improving passenger experience as well as expanding cargo services and also improving the quality of services at the airport. This investment resulted in an airport that has that achieved EDGE certification with less gas emissions as well as efficient use of electricity, and this was the first EDGE certified building in the whole of Central Asia.
The EDGE certification underscores the commitment to environmental responsibility and energy efficiency, setting a precedent for future infrastructure projects in the region. Recent developments also highlight the increasing role of international investments in Kazakhstan's growth. For instance, in 2023, the IFC's portfolio in Kazakhstan included over $257 million in private sector solutions, including financing sectors such as transport, agriculture and technology. The European Union respects Kazakhstan's decision to refrain from joining the anti-Russian sanctions, said EU Special Envoy for Sanctions David O'Sullivan during a press conference on his third visit to Astana. He expressed gratitude to Kazakhstan for ensuring that the country does not allow its territory to be used as a platform for sanctions circumvention. According to Mr. O'Sullivan, since his first visit, the European Union has asked Kazakhstan to pay special attention to a small subset of 50 sanctioned products, which the EU refers to as highly priority goods. Notably, since last April, there has been a progressive decline in import and export of these products through Kazakhstan. Overall, the EU Special Envoy positively assessed the current level of interaction with Kazakhstan, expressing hope for further development of relations in a broader context.
On the specific issue of sanctions, there were a couple of problems which arose for Kazakhstan where we have been able to make a lot of progress. Thinking of the operation of the CPC pipeline and the fact that Kazakhstan is now a very important supplier of oil to the European Union, for which we are very grateful. There was also a very important issue for Kazakhstan of the immobilization of assets of the Eurasian Development Bank in Euroclear in Brussels. And after a lot of intensive work, particularly by the Belgian colleagues, we've been able to unfreeze that money, and it is now flowing to Kazakhstan and supporting projects in the country.
Additionally, Petr Stano, lead spokesperson for foreign affairs and security policy of the European Union, commended Kazakhstan's efforts against sanction evasion. He emphasized that the core of bilateral relations lies in the ability to openly discuss and address any issues or problems in this regard.
The moment we have seen that there are suspicious trade movement linked to our sanctions against Russia, we started engagement with the Kazakh authorities, and the response was very positive. And we really appreciate the way how the authorities in Kazakhstan started to tackle these concerns. And of course, there is always more to be done.
A global survey by the United Nations revealed that over 85% of people are concerned about online disinformation, with 87% believing it has already harmed their country's politics. A UNESCO Commission survey in 16 countries with upcoming national elections highlights the urgent need for effective regulation. New York Times reporter Balzhan Samigulina interviewed Emerson Brooking from the Digital Forensic Research Lab on recognizing disinformation and social media. How to be armed against disinformation and fakes in multiple media platforms users are now exposed to. Let's learn the answers from the interview.
Mr. Brukin, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. You're a big and widely cited expert in the field of information, conflict, disinformation, AI policy. So what tools can you share with us that can be used in order to recognize the misinformation, disinformation that can be spread in our social media, please?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And frankly, I can't share one particular tool because the tools are changing all the time. Instead, in my talks and presentations, I often focus on ways of thinking. And this idea that as we are navigating online spaces, as so many people are competing for our attention all the time, potentially spreading mis and disinformation, that the best approach is to adopt something we call horizontal thinking, where we encourage people to consult many different sources of information shallowly, and then try to figure out if a particular claim they see is true before diving deep into one particular source.
So it's just a way of thinking. There is no especially tools that can be used right now, no?
There are endless tools, but there's no silver bullet. Instead, there's more a mode of thinking where we should be more adaptable, more willing to question our own biases and assumptions, and always a willingness to be looking for new technical tools that may help give us the solution. But understanding that you know, it's not going to be a particular tool, it's not going to be an AI chatbot that is bringing you to the truth. You have to do that yourself.
I heard your TED Talk speech that you have given 4 years ago, and you mentioned that in some nations, misinformation can lead to more drastic and terrible consequences. Can it concern Kazakhstan too?
Mis and disinformation can lead to these catastrophic consequences anywhere. So I'd encourage you and anyone who uses online spaces to think carefully, especially when a falsehood is being spread about a vulnerable people, about an ethnic, cultural, religious, or sexual minority, because it is in those cases where falsehoods that are being spread about one of these groups can quickly lead to a sort of fire of viral falsehood and can really endanger lives.
You're also an author of books on social media. Is there any specific of misinformation that being spread in Central Asia, if to take it into account that Kazakh users, for example, do not use Facebook and X that much as Western countries, for example?
So I think that the challenges of mis and disinformation look quite different in Kazakhstan because of the different social media platforms that you use.
Yes.
When you are, as Kazakhs are, using these social media platforms which are predominantly Telegram, which have these smaller groups that are coming together around a common set of interests, there is still the danger of falsehood going viral on these chat logs. So I'd encourage people to take great care when they're forwarded new content in one of these groups, to take a step back and to consider, even if you like the group where you saw the content, even if you trust the person who forwarded it to you, did they actually read it? How did the forwarding start? By taking that step back and really reflecting, we can still prevent the spread of misinformation, no matter where we are.
So it's about the Telegram. Kazakh users use Telegram more than others, right? What about Instagram, for example?
So with Instagram, that is a case where the mis and disinformation can be quite hard to detect.
Because of picture also, yes? We have more picture and video there, yes.
Exactly. When it is in a picture form, the technical methods of, say detecting something or reducing the spread of it become much harder. So then it is also a case where if you are a user of Instagram, more responsibility unfortunately falls on you to be applying those critical thinking skills to what you're seeing.
Now we're widely using the ChatGPT, which is an AI tool. Are you planning to maybe release a book on ChatGPT, how to recognize also the disinformation that can be spread through this ChatGPT?
That is a great next book idea, although I think by the time I would write it, ChatGPT, the next version would be doing a better job.
Would be faster, yes.
That's right. Now, I think I'll return to what I said at the beginning, which is this idea that the technology is changing all the time, but the challenges are still fundamentally human. And so even as AI is changing so much of modern life, it is still up to us to apply our own critical thinking and to understand that even if the AI sounds perfectly convincing, it still has severe limitations.
You are the Director of Strategy and Resident Senior Fellow at the DFR Lab of the Atlantic Council. Are there any plans to maybe open the center or branch here in one of the Central Asian countries, or to work closer with Kazakh partners?
So I can't confirm such plans at this time, but it is my hope that we engage more across Central Asia. I think it's very much the case that here in Astana, in Kazakhstan, the Kazakhs I've had the opportunity to meet are so entrepreneurial, creative, and forward-thinking when it comes to digital tools. People are so good at using these digital tools to close historical gaps that have existed between different regions. And so as a result, there's immense opportunity for the use of technology in Kazakhstan, but also particular dangers of mis and disinformation.
Regarding the cybersecurity, what are the biggest challenges in general for our country and for our region, and how we should address them, do you think?
This is a difficult question.
Yes.
I would say in our daily lives, and it is a very boring answer, but the most important thing we can do, we should always do, is think twice before clicking on a link from an email.
But we do not do that.
Well, that is a problem. That is something that I hope we together can increase understanding of, because especially people who are maybe newer to online communications, they may not recognize that people are targeting them. People are trying to steal their information. Criminals are going after them. And so that is something that I think everyone can do a better job at. But that is the number one, basically, way to be prepared when we think about cybersecurity.
If to speak about the concept of cybersecurity of Kazakhstan, what should be obligatory included in there, especially taking this geopolitical situation?
So I said what everyday Kazakhs should be doing is we think about a concept for the country regarding cybersecurity. I think most important is this idea of resilience, digital resilience. Digital resilience, and this is also a term that the United States has begun using for our own cyber preparedness. But resilience means that you're going to be attacked. The attack may initially be successful, but how quickly can you recover from it? We need to get away from this idea that we can be perfectly protected against cyber attacks. Unfortunately, that's not the way things work. But if you take the right steps, if you back up critical systems, if you have redundancy, you can ensure that even a major cyber attack doesn't have much lasting impact on the population.
Thank you very much for an interesting conversation. Glad to see you here.
Thank you very much.
And to finish our program today, we want with the story of Kazakh traveler Bahadir Rasulov. Having explored 69 countries worldwide, he has just returned from Papua Islands, a destination seldom frequented by tourists in Indonesia. The traveler distinguishes himself by seeking out remote tribal communities rather than popular tourist spots. In an interview with New Time reporter, he shared his impressions and experiences from his latest adventures. Intriguing details in the following report.
Bahadir Rasulov works as an engineer at Microsoft in the Netherlands and runs a travel blog. His current position allows him to blend work with travel, enabling him to balance his engineer career with his passion for exploration. Bahadir revealed that visiting Africa was a childhood dream, and he seized the first opportunity to make it a reality. His recent photo gallery is filled with vibrant pictures of African tribes. The first country he visited was Ethiopia, which, as he said, inspired him to explore African continent deeper.
Africa is a huge continent with a lot of countries, and every country is unique. So they have a different story, different culture. Even inside the country, they have 1,000 different tribes which lives and speak in different languages, and they have different traditions, different culture, everything different than other people in the world.
South Sudan has also become a significant destination for Bahadur. He, along with a group of 6 active travelers from different countries, had been planning a trip there for 6 months in advance. As he said, it is a challenging destination, but it is also incredibly colorful. South Sudan gained independence in 2011 after a long civil war. It is the youngest country in the world and home to 64 tribes. Bahadur was able to explore 6 of them. Having traveled half of the world, Bahadur highlighted there is enough space for unity rather than division, and people in different parts of the planet surprisingly share the same behavior patterns.
People behavior is the same. Everywhere is the same, but these cultural things, for example, they do the same thing, they pray, they eat, everything is the normal people, but they have small part of their culture, which is, for some people, is abnormal. But generally, the people behavior is the same. Power, politic, even in the tribes there is a politic everywhere. Yeah. So someone wants this one, someone wants to rule this, and
the Kazakh travel blogger mentioned that he traveled in Africa with his chef. However, despite having had sufficient food supplies, he was always open to new culinary discoveries. Bahadur also found Kazakh national baursaks in some places. According to him, baursaks are prepared all over Africa up to equator, in countries like Nigeria, Cameroon, and North Sudan. The traveler in turn treated the tribal residents with Kazakh chocolate. Now Bahadur plans to visit many more countries in Europe and Africa. Baljan Samigulna, Raimbek Beguzhaev, Koshkarbay Kaliyev, New Time.
That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.